Hey guys, this is Shivam. So basically, this video is to explain or to try to explain the sequence of events of what happened today at the Republic Day farmer protest parade. My source for this is mostly myself because I was present there on ground level. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to be there on ground level is so that I could see and experience everything firsthand, and I would not have to rely on social media or the news to know what really went down, and of course to be able to support the movement in person. So I decided to go to Tikri border because I'd previously been to Singhu. So I went to Tikri border at around 8:30 a.m. because the the tractor parade was supposed to start at 9 a.m. So I went there at 8:30, and they'd begun on time by around 9. So once the protest parade began, the tractors were going down one lane. There were people who were walking alongside them, chanting slogans with their Indian flags and everything, marching alongside them. And it was a really massive parade, even though it was smaller than the one coming from Singhu. And I managed to get a hold of one of the tractors that was going through, and I sat on it. I hung off the back of the tractor, and I was like, all right, I'm going to hitch a ride all the way. I'm going to be in the tractor and experience what that's like. And we were going along for about 1.5 hour. Around that time, we started entering the outskirts of Delhi, and so we started seeing a lot of people from Delhi showing up on the streets to watch, to cheer on, to support the farmers. They were also chanting the slogans with us. They already knew some of the slogans that may have become familiar through social media. And so around 12 or 12:30 p.m., we reached this point on the pre-planned path, the route of the protest, which was the Nangloi metro station, I guess. At which point the protest was supposed to take a right and then loop back to its point of origin and go back to Tikri, which is what all the tractors were doing. They were literally going off that turn, and that station was where most of the public was gathered, because I guess they knew that that was the closest we were going to get to the city, which was still the outskirts of the city in West Delhi. And there was a huge contingent of riot police over there. There were, trucks. They were, armed completely with everything, and but they were inactive. They were just standing there on standby, and the crowd was incredible. The reception that the farmers and the tractors got from the people of Delhi was like superstars were being welcomed. It was like massive, as if some huge celebrities had come down, and the crowd was cheering. They were whistling. They had all like Indian flags waving, and it was an electric atmosphere. Okay, a lot of this I've actually put up videos of. So if you see my stories, if you see my IGTV video covering all of this, you'll see a lot of this happening sequence after sequence. Then what happened is I got off the tractor once it had reached its end point, and it was going to arc around and go back to Tikri. That was the path decided. It was agreed upon. The Delhi police had given the permission for this. Now, what happened was I got off the tractor, and then I wanted to see the entire march through until the end. And I stood at the side where all of the other people, the people of Delhi, were gathered to watch the tractor parade. And I started taking videos from there until like at least the parade ended around 1 or 2 p.m. So about 10 minutes into me just standing with the rest of the crowd, with the public watching the parade sort of come into its final few hundred tractors or so, we hear a loud explosion. And initially you just feel like maybe it's a small firework or something like that, so you ignore it because there's so much noise and everything going on and cheering and hooting. And about 10 seconds after the explosion, you see a huge like cloud of smoke come up. And I guess still at that point, the public around me, at least the general public of Delhi, did not realize what that smoke was. Maybe they thought tractor se dhua nikal raha hoga. But anyone who has protested before, especially in Delhi, knows if you hear an explosion and you see smoke, there's only one explanation: it's tear gas, and you better cover your fucking mouth and run, and your eyes. And maybe 15 seconds after you see the smoke, like I just turn around and everybody starts rubbing their eyes, and people's eyes are watering, they're holding their heads. And this is hundreds upon hundreds of general people. This is not just the farmers who were on the tractors passing through, it was everybody. And by the time people realize what's really going on, a fifth or sixth tear gas shell has gone off. And that's when people suddenly realize what's going on, and they start, because they're like in chaos, their ears and their nose and everything is burning, they start running back away from the turning point where the tractors were supposed to turn and go back to Tikri. And it's just pandemonium at that point. Everyone's running away from the site. People think there's going to be a lathi charge. A lathi charge doesn't actually happen. Clearly, the tear gas was enough there. And all of this is happening when the crowd was completely peaceful. Everyone was cheering and enjoying themselves. It was a genuine parade. The tractors were going through and going back to the Tikri border. Nobody was breaking barricades and going, crossing that area into Delhi. There's a bridge between us and Delhi, and there was no way we were going to cross it anyway. So, completely unprovoked, as Delhi police, how do you fire tear gas into a crowd, not just of protesters and riot police, but of civilians, of hundreds upon hundreds of civilians who have gathered there to celebrate their Republic Day, come out to support and see their farmers? How can you fire tear gas into that atmosphere? It is an awful feeling, okay? It was my first time experiencing tear gas up close. It fucks your system up. It gets into your respiratory tract. It burns your nose. It burns your eyes. If you don't wash them immediately, it can really sting for a while. It can mess your system up if you're right in front of the smoke. And they did this completely unprovoked. And when everybody ran back and cleared the area up, the riot police came in and they sort of blocked the area off, and they were like, okay, now the parade is sort of over. And that's how they wrapped the parade up, with an unprovoked tear gas attack. It was completely ridiculous. This was happening at Tikri. And by this time, I started getting news from other places, from my friends who were with the main Singhu protest contingent, which was way bigger. And they reported something very similar happening with them, where now, what happened at Singhu was basically, again, the Delhi police and the farmers had agreed upon a route that they were supposed to follow, and then after they finish that route, they turn around and they go back to Singhu. What happened was, the night before the parade, last night, late in the night, 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. or something, the Delhi police started putting barricades on the path that was agreed upon, that the protesters were going to march and parade with the tractors on. It was really absurd. So when the parade actually began in the morning, the farmers had to move the barricades, because that was the agreed upon path. That's the path that the Delhi police had given permission for, which now had new barricades out of the fucking blue. And the Delhi police then used that removal of barricades, which were done very peacefully, as an excuse to start firing tear gas and lathi charging people. And that's fucking ridiculous. You can't do that. But when you put that together with what happened at Tikri, where I was, you begin to understand what sort of preemptive plan the Delhi police was really, trying to do. They were trying to create situations, or, bottleneck situations in certain areas where something could go wrong, or you could claim that, oh, the farmers are going violent, they're removing the barricades, just so that they could create a situation where they fire tear gas and shut the whole thing down and disrupt the protest, which was otherwise going very peacefully. The people of Delhi were loving it. They were, completely part of the whole vibe. If you watch my videos, you watch my IGTVs and my stories, you will see this. People were going insane and completely part of the vibe of the parade and the protest. They've been trying to do this for so long. They've been trying to make the protest look bad, the farmers' protest look bad for so long, and they failed. So this was sort of their opportunity where, they're entering the city. Let's sort of set a nice little trap up for them, where we can create these situations where, unprovoked, we can, claim that we were the ones who were under fire, and so that's why we fired our tear gas shells. When in fact, if you listen to eyewitnesses' accounts from those areas, it's the exact opposite thing that was happening. At least from Tikri, where I can report personally, completely unprovoked. There was absolutely nothing happening. The entire protest was going back to the Tikri border. It was not even entering the city. Why was tear gas fired? Into a crowd of civilians, into a crowd of just normal people from Delhi. Most of the farmers had already gone back to the border. So what the hell was going on there? And just like this entire narrative has been shifted, and now as you can see, the way like the Godi media and every channel is like pushing it is, oh, the protest went bad and it became violent. Everybody's just focusing on that, when lakhs of people protested, paraded peacefully, happily, and went back to the borders. And it was one of the most incredible moments of like a Republic Day celebration ever. But the narrative has successfully been flipped. People are beginning to focus on this as if it's a riot and not a peaceful parade or protest, because of a small bunch of people who got into the Red Fort, which is not the end of the world really, nor is putting up a flag there the end of the world. But if you find yourself talking more about which flag was in the Red Fort, I mean, FYI, the Indian flag was never brought down there anyway. But if you find yourself talking more about flags or about, the barricades were broken, listen, flags and barricades are not human beings. Human beings who are farmers who've been dying for 2 months now got tear gassed, charged, tricked by the Delhi police, and then because they're angry, still managed to somehow finish most of their parade and go back to the border. If that's not what you're focusing on, and the fact that Modi is not ready to listen to the laws, is not to the laws being repealed, is not what you're focusing on. And if you're focusing on the fact that some flag, which is not even a Khalistani flag, so please don't even go there, was put up at the Red Fort, or like 20 tractors got in there, they got into the city, they attacked a bus that was being used as a barricade. Holy shit, man. Focus on the human story here. That's exactly what the Godi media wants you to do. Don't fall into their trap. That's not what this is about. This is going to be a very long fight for the farmers. Let's keep the narrative on what it is supposed to be, the farmers themselves. And if this video helps you understand better what really went down in the city today, by so many eyewitness accounts you're going to get by people who were along with the protesters, I hope it helps. Please don't let them twist the narrative, okay? Don't let them twist the narrative into the same propaganda machinery that they're best at. This was their opportunity. They're taking it. They're, completely trying to mint it. Don't let them do that. Keep your focus on the human beings that are at the center of this protest, the farmers and the laborers. Kisan Mazdoor Ekta Zindabad.